For the past 3 years, the team at Ubisoft Quebec has embarked on their own epic voyage, creating the world of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. As their journey nears its end, we sat down with members of the development team to discuss recreating the classical settings of ancient Greece, engaging in all-out army warfare, arming players with a first civilization artifact, and for the first time in the series, putting player choice at the forefront of Assassin's Creed.
Odyssey is the second step in the transformation of Assassin's Creed into a full-blown RPG.
So the big themes of Assassin's Creed Odyssey are the big themes of Assassin's Creed, the franchise. Freedom versus order, that first civilization, that mystery of where we came from. Since we're the oldest Assassin's Creed has ever been in time period, we're able to really explore those, and I think it'll be a super exciting experience for players. Choice was absolutely one of the first things that we started thinking about and we wanted in the game. Not just in the dialogue system, obviously, but within the structure of the game.
Especially being able to choose your character. So this is what's going to feel really, really different for players this year.
So there is a base storyline that is consistent, that there are a lot of big choices in it, but there's also these small stories that you don't know where they're going to lead. And sometimes it leads in romance, sometimes it leads in a bloodbath, and so whatever. So sometimes in a charming relationship with a new friend.
The things you make decisions about within quests are going to have an impact later on.
You were mine, and Kira took you from me.
Greece is about conversations. We wanted to leverage that as a way to interact with history. So if I'm interacting with a historical character, I want to be able to ask questions. I want to be able to know who he is.
What brings you to Thelos?
We cannot have a conversation with Socrates and make players feel that they are really reliving history without choice.
Am I gonna save this guy? Am I gonna let him die? So asking myself questions as a player that are very deep and that could impact the choices, yes, at the end.
What exactly is justice?
I think it's interesting to build relationships that are not just stopping at a quest. That sense of interest, that sense of seduction, that sense of playfulness with it as well.
Very poetic for someone covered in blood. I like it.
It's not everybody that can be seduced in the game, but there are occasions where you will meet people that, when the little heart appears, it's like, oh, I don't know, that dude or that girl, what am I going to do? So
I also found this.
But we also have friendships that gets built over time in the game.
Two sides of the same coin.
Since Assassin's Creed Odyssey takes place during the Peloponnesian War, you better believe you're going to get to partake in massive battles between hundreds of Athenian and Spartan soldiers.
We knew we needed to recreate that and to give the player that opportunity to engage in these huge battles with hundreds of soldiers on each side. And you're going to use every ability you have, every ounce of strength and adrenaline that you can muster to face off against these huge battles. And then once you complete them, you're going to get great rewards out of it, as well as changing who owns that area of the world. So it's not just this huge battle, but it's also consequences within the world itself. The special abilities are a way of expanding what abilities have always been, which is a way to more customize your playstyle. For us, we push it even farther because we use the broken spear of Leonidas as that access to even bigger and better abilities. So the Spear of Leonidas is Leonidas' spear, obviously, but it's also a first civilization artifact. In the past, you've maybe had the Apple of Eden for a little bit. We give this to you for the entire game, and you upgrade it, you make it better. You get to get more abilities because of it and because of its connection to you, which we're going to develop throughout the story. Being 2,500 years ago, the oldest we've ever gone in Assassin's Creed, to where that connection to the first civilization is the strongest it's ever been in the franchise.
I think choosing the Peloponnesian War as a backdrop was an excellent choice. It's a crucial moment in history who deeply impact our civilization today. It's also an opposition between democracy and tyranny. Everything is interconnected in ancient Greece. Politics, religion, and social behavior, it's all connected.
And at the same time, when you go visit Greece, none of it is still standing, or most of it is, not there. So where you have to go do the research and bring that back alive.
In fact, that's something we've learned throughout our research, that they find color pigment on statues and temples. So using that knowledge to our advantage, which was art direction blessing, kind of, because we could add colors on almost all man-made structures. So that's why if you play the game, you'll see there's tons of color on almost everything. We have an expert in the studio with the substance designer, which did an amazing job reproducing all those marbles, gold and trims, mosaic on the floor, fresco on the walls. That truly gives something, I don't know, unexpected about what Antiquity could have looked like that you don't even see in movies because they don't have the time to do it. When you think of Greece, what do you think first? It's probably the blue sky and the blue water. Well, for us, the water was like a main character. We wanted to have like the wave crashing on the shoreline with the volumetric foam also. Like that's probably the first within the Ubisoft game to have a volumetric foam.
It's a good thing that foam is so detailed because you'll be making quite a bit of it as you stir things up in Odyssey's naval warfare.
We're making the sea really alive by bringing back Naval. We have sharks, whales, it's raw, it's up close, you can cleave ships in two, put other ships on fire. It brings that whole dynamic on the sea.
Because we wanted the ship to be your home. It is your home base, it's where you meet Barnabas, who's your captain and your good friend. As you add people to the ship, you can recruit people from the world to join your ship and travel with you.
I met this character, I helped him, I recruited him. Oh, he's there. Who has that? If you took a snapshot of your boat and showed your crew, I won't have the same crew as you. Nobody here will have the same crew.
You're going to find them in quests. They're going to be people that you talk to and you can ask them to join you on your ship. And then the other way that you're going to get them is to recruit from your enemies, from mercenaries, from cool-looking characters that you might see in the world or people that have really good stats. Making it not just about, okay, here's a bunch of enemies in front of me, I need to wipe them all out. It was more of, okay, here's a bunch of guys. Ooh, that guy's really interesting. I'm going to go get him.
And one of the things that I like the most about what we've done is that we really take a step back and put it in the hands of the player. Well, for me, this team that I have now at Ubisoft Quebec, and we've been growing this team since 2005 to be, and this is our ultimate goal, was to build a game like Odyssey.
The word Odyssey for our game really comes out as the thing, you know, like you'll be going on an epic journey, and that's what we wanted. You from a mercenary to a Greek legend, you know, the Greek hero, that's what Assassin's Creed Odyssey is all about.
With Assassin's Creed going into like a fully fledged open world RPG, we knew that choice was the next logical step for us. We were like, hey, choice is our thing. It's the philosophy that's flowing through all of the creation of the game, and that extends to being able to choose your character. It extends to Naval and how you're going to customize your ship, how you're going to play with your ship, who you're going to recruit for your ship. And then you can make a choice about the way you're going to approach quests. It had to be everywhere or nowhere at all in terms of how we were looking at making things.
So yes, the narrative will lead to different conclusions, but if you go off the beaten path, you will be surprised and you will have to make choices, sometimes dire, sometimes not. So yes, we want to give that autonomy to the player.
You can choose if you're going to help the Athenians dominate the Greek world or the Spartans, and you can change your choice in that playthrough as well.
We wanted to approach the combat in a way that gave the player more options, more customization, more ability to have choice in the way that they approach every combat situation. So that meant that we wanted to give them these awesome abilities, these brand new 30+ amazing abilities that can all be upgraded.
If I want to shoot people with bow and arrows and specialize in that, you can do it. If you feel that it's more like melee fighting, you can do it as well. And if you feel that it's a little bit more stealth that I would like to do and, you know, get the drop on them, that's all available for you as well. So
Very poetic for someone covered in blood. I like it.
the romancing, we have a handful of characters that we can romance. They don't necessarily intertwine with the bigger picture, so they're much more regional content stories, or, you know, a little bit more for fun.
When we set out to make the story in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, we knew that we were going to have multiple endings. Now, for us, it meant making a series of choices through a series of quests that would impact the ending, and not just be multiple endings based on one decision you make at the end, which sometimes other games fall prey to. Just because you're making choices doesn't mean that you're going to be cut off from half the game for making these choices. You're simply going to have your own unique experience.
Something that I really like about our game is the variation of tones.
I never thought Poseidon's anger would be too much for the mighty Cassandra's stomach.
You know, you can be a little bit more of a traditional compassionate hero, but you can also call people on their bullshit in the game. Somebody's coming to you with a much more down-to-earth, easy, quest like somebody stole my vase or something. So your character can say, dude, who do I look like? Like somebody's gonna get, vases, like I'm destroying armies, Well, when the player feels that he can say that, we try to put that in the word of the character as a choice as well. So, dude, the fuck I look like, so that you can get that a little bit more in the game. You can't do it every time, but how do I feel about saying something here? We try to mimic that and then have the characters react.
Cassandra, what do you think we should do?
Player choice is a motivator. It connects you with what you're doing. The game is talking to me and I need to respond to that. So the player choices are felt in dialogues, but they're also felt in the world. So in the play style that I'm going to choose in the game, the mix and matching of the abilities, who I want to interact with, Sparta, Athens, what do I want to do as a player? You decide and it's your choice to do it.
So you're born in Sparta, your player character is born in Sparta, but you move out of Sparta at an early age. So your combat style is not a true Spartan phalanx with the shield and the spear. You're fighting on your own. You're fighting for your money. You're fighting for your life all the time. So your combat is very active, very dynamic. So that meant that we wanted to give them these awesome abilities, these brand new 30 plus amazing abilities that can all be upgraded. And then you're going to choose of those 30 abilities, where do you want them? What power do you want them to be? And how are you going to mix and match them in combat? So the base combat is based on Assassin's Creed Origins. It's the same sort of hitbox-based distance, timing. But then we've added all the abilities. We focused on mobility. You're much more active and dynamic, dodging and parrying instead of sort of turtling with a shield.
Without the shield doesn't mean that you don't have the defensive option, actually. We have the parry that is fairly generous. Compared to a block, what it does is it's creating you an opportunity to take back on the offense.
If you want to sneak around, put the hood on, like and hide in the bushes and, lure people in and use some of the abilities that are stealth, you can do that a lot more than we've done since Syndicate.
Because of your DNA, because of the spear being an artifact of the first civilization, you combine those two things and you get just really, really impressive game-changing abilities for range, for shooting your bow, for the melee combat, and then for assassination as well. You have to build up adrenaline, energy for the spear to use that and unleash these abilities. So you have to use your base combat to build up the adrenaline, and then you unleash spear abilities.
So regardless of how you choose to map the abilities, which weapon you want to wield, you will always have a strong aesthetic that's true for a Greek hero warrior.
We have 2 weapon slots, the bow, you have 5 gear slots on your character. All of those can be upgraded at the blacksmith to your current level. You're the only character in ancient Greece that has a first civilization artifact, but there are mercenaries, there are very strong enemies with the Spartans and the Athenians that you're going to face that will challenge you constantly. And with the RPG progression, you're going to be facing against enemies that have a higher level than you. It's really going to be up to you how you play.
Everywhere in the world, at any point, you can use your ship and go in the water, you can swim, dive, you can go on land, come back. It's always there, it's always on the map.
The game is called Odyssey, and of course we're modeling ourselves on the voyage of Odysseus, and you're exploring the Aegean Sea. It doesn't take place at the same time, but it's the same experience that we're trying to give to the player. And Naval is a huge important part of that.
Also, the map is huge, really big. The sea needs to be seamless because this time it's open everywhere around you. So we had to do a lot of tech on that, making sure that the shorelines where you could see like the waves coming and dying on the beaches. You have a lot of big waves when you go far away in the ocean. We also make sure that you see all those kind of fishes and stuff like that you can see from your ship and when you're swimming.
The naval combat in Odyssey is something more fast-paced, more close range. It's more intense than ever. The fact that we have people shooting javelins and arrows make us put the ship closer together so you can see the action.
What we discovered in the end was that mobility was a key factor of making a fun experience for the player. So in fact, the boat has a very high acceleration. You're able to turn really fast, you're able to move really fast. You may see a boat about to ram you, and then like within a couple seconds you can sort of dodge out of the way because of the mobility of the ship.
Some ships were shooting fire ammunition to burn the other ship. The most important tactic was the ramming and the cleavings.
Yeah, and of course cleaving a ship is advantageous to the player because it's going to give him more life, more resources. So you're always looking for that opportunity to cleave a ship, not only for the spectacular nature of it, but also it's, as a gameplay, it benefits the player.
During those times, the ship was able to board and kill the remaining crew.
And after that, loot the treasure on the ship because there's a bunch of chests. The bigger the ship is, the bigger the rewards are. So every time you sunk a ship, in fact, there's like chests that are being released in the ocean. You can dive and try to hunt them. It's pretty interesting. And if you go too far in the water, you might encounter some sharks also. So it's pretty hard to kill.
There's definitely going to be some unique ships on the water, some unique challenges. When you first encounter these ships, if you're a low level, you're going to learn to run away quickly.
As you get stronger, your ship is going to get stronger. But beyond that, there's upgrades that you're going to need to apply to your ship. So upgrading the arrows, the javelins, how much ramming damage it can do, how many lieutenants you can have on the ship, how strong the hull is, if you can shoot fire with your arrows or javelins. So there's a lot of upgrades to the ship that will make it more powerful.
Mercenaries will come after you on sea, and it's a cool moment because they have awesome looking ships, they have unique figureheads, unique masts. When the player gets into combat with these guys, you could also board them, and so you can fight the mercenary like hand to hand on the deck of his ship, and hopefully you can even Sparta kick him off the deck. And this is like a way cooler moment to take out a mercenary in the game.
They can also customize the ship how they want in terms of who they want to recruit and the perks they will want to have on the ship, so to create a synergy between upgrades and perks to build the way they want to play.
You can recruit lieutenants from people in the world, be they individual weak archer, or if you want to find the best mercenary in the world, you can go knock that person out, pay them, convince them to join your crew.
I want you to be with me when I do.
They can be coming from missions, or you can also choose to find ones that have like good perks. They're going to give you more weapons, they're going to give you better armors, they're going to give also like crazy perks on your ship, like boosting speed and having more stamina. So they're changing almost every kind of part of your boat, in fact. So every one of them is very different.
And then when you buy a certain ability, you can call them into combat for you and either create a distraction or you can go join them in the fight.
Courageously, their destiny.
So the sea shanties, we have a couple at the beginning of the game that are available, and the more you progress in the game, you will unlock some sea shanties that will be about your Odyssey.
In our setting of ancient Greece, 431 BC, the Peloponnesian War is raging. So every little city-state has its own army, and they're allied with either Sparta or Athens. Those are the major superpowers of the time.
But at first, the Peloponnesian War took place during the 5th century, which is a crucial moment in history for our civilization. Because as Thucydides says, it was the most important conflict in antiquity between the rise of a democracy and the ancestral system of the tyranny and the oligarchy. But also plenty other opposition between tradition and modernity, religion and science.
That time period is still relevant for us today because we still embrace a lot of those philosophies. We still have the same questions that they were thinking about back then. So it was a match made in heaven for an Assassin's Creed game in its war history.
So the landscape of Greece is magnificent. We went to visit, and the epic vistas that it allowed us to create were something that we really wanted to concentrate on recreating in the world.
Greece is made out of 85% of mountains, so it's a very mountainous landscape, which is great, by the way, because it's creating tons of layering, so we could play with fogs and mist, so to create a very unique ambience.
It also plays with the sensation of the Odyssey as well, because there's always the sensation of what's beyond the next mountain range, what am I going to get when I go there? You always get a really cool view as you come over the hill and you see the next region lay out in front of you. That really reinforces the sense of you being on your own Odyssey.
For us, Greece needed to be colorful and very lush, because that's what most people have in mind when they think of that amazing land. We pushed saturation and colors quite a lot in our game, even though we had different biomes also in it.
We knew that this world was going to be huge, so it was super important to make sure that we kept it interesting for the players. So as they go from region to region, it's not always just the typical picture of Greece. We saw snow-capped mountains, and we saw lush spring valleys and things, so we wanted to really recapture that and make sure that we gave that to the player when they went on their journey.
Reconstructing ancient Greece was quite a challenge. For some cities, it was harder to find some specific data. For example, on Mykonos, nothing is remained. So it was quite hard to reproduce exactly the city as it was during antique time.
The big challenge was the chaos that the Greeks used to build their cities. There was no urban planning as we know it today, so we needed to try and embrace that chaos.
We tried to capture the importance of mythology for the ancient Greeks. The mythology is the integral part of their society, their social behavior, their belief, their religious tradition. Mythology also inspired them in their art, in their decoration of their temple. Also, mythology was used during that time period as a political propaganda.
So again, it comes down to a lot of research and working very closely with the historians to make sure that the actions and the behaviors of what people are doing in the world is credible to our time period. So the meteorite system is still present, people still live their own lives, they have their own schedule.
We were really lucky that our historical characters had quite a bit of information about them. You know, you have Plato's accounts of Socrates and who Socrates was and how he would infuriate people with the amount of questions he asked. And then we looked at historical documentation and the different myths and legends and the stories to help us craft the fictional characters and who we knew we wanted to represent, who we knew we couldn't leave out, and craft their personalities based on that.
I'll do my best with what you've told me. Good luck.
The heroes of the past, the legends, the myths, the philosophers, it is an amazing cultural setting to explore.